everybody. La Tigress and Gormizer here to continue with the Hand of the Gods Fall Weekly number 2. Sorry you had to see that, guys. You know, we just had a little something. But all the fires should have been put out now, and we are going to update you with the results of the semifinals, as we do know what happens.
Yeah, Arlo wins.
Yep.
Is the short-term version of it. We kind of saw it coming in. He was playing well when he came in, and he just kind of had that control coming for it. We got to see a little bit of it because we had the players go ahead with their match to just try and stop them from worrying too much about having to wait forever and forever and forever just on us. So him going through, able to kind of close out that one with his Odin deck, and now in the finals.
So with that closeout, we do know that he is going to be facing off in the finals. If we want to go ahead and take a look at that bracket to kind of see how everything's been going so far with our second edition of this Fall Circuit Weekly. It looks like it's going to be Belgian Grump along with Arlo.
And you can see he actually did get to start very, very early on here on the left-hand side up against just a few players. Some of them not necessarily big names up until you see Bloody Saul, but the rest of them were really giving some trouble, actually. I see he has a couple of losses just kind of throughout it, all in all. But it did go to 5 sets there in the quarterfinals. Was able to find the 3-0 for his semis. And now he's looking to try and close it up against Arlo. And with the way Arlo's been playing that Opwash deck, it's a little shaky for him.
Yeah, a little shaky, but then he still manages to find a way to turn it around. Yeah. I'm sure Belgian is feeling like he wants to close it out again. Because once you come off of a 3-0, you always feel like, yeah, you know what? I like that feeling. Yeah. I want to recreate that feeling. And the second someone takes a game off of you, no, why did you do that to me?
Just get a little bit mad about it.
Yeah.
Because like you said, like you're coming in relaxed, you know, especially for a semifinals. You come in with a 3-0, you come into finals, you're like, this is going to be easy. Like, this guy's not even going to be able to touch me.
Yeah.
And we may get to see him taking down a peg, maybe, depending on if that's his mentality in the first place. But he's looking to try and fight it out. Both of them obviously want the 3 wins. And this could potentially be, I want to say, our closest set of the day, even though we've had several go on to their 3rd, 4th game.
Yeah, both of these players are really strong. They've been around the scene and have shown out, even since the fall circuit started, some definite skill. And we'll have to see how they face off here. Shouldn't be too long before we go ahead and hop into the finals, as I know they've been eager to get to it. And we've seen Arlo now in 2 sets so far. And we still kind of need to discover what Belgium Grump has brought to the table.
Yeah, that's going to be the big thing coming into this. We kind of know what Arlo's going to be playing. We know what his play style is, the feel that he's going for, the vibes he gives off. But Belgian Grump is in this position where, I mean, depending on whether they've been paying attention to the stream, even with the delay, he'll kind of have he'll know that feeling, but he may or may not get an advantage really out of it, just because we've seen Arlo play so differently each time he has a different god out. And even with the Opwash, there's been 2 or 3 different styles he's run through with just one deck.
Yeah, there's that first time when he comes around, kind of putting the Raise the Graves out a little bit early. That hasn't necessarily worked in his favor. Yeah. A little bit of a different strategy, and then he usually kind of flips the script a little bit, and that's what ends up where he's had 2 series in a row, this 3-1 finish, and because of that style that he's brought with Opwash here. But as a reminder, everybody, so this is the finals of the Fall Circuit Weekly number 2. It's a $1,000 prize pool, so actual moolah on the line, as well as bragging rights, which, let's face it, it's pretty awesome. You want to be able to call yourself one of the best of the best.
Within a day, we'll be seeing on our website how many more decks. Like, hey, this got me first place. Use it. Everyone's going to come in and be like, why did you win and I didn't win? But it'll be what it is. And I mean, that's kind of how I learned some of the cards. Don't tell everybody.
But also, it's important to remember that it's a best of 5. That's how it has been in quarterfinals and semifinals. And it's going to be that way in finals as well, meaning that everyone comes to this tournament with 3 decks in their lineup, and up until quarterfinals, you kind of get to choose a 2. That's your flavor. There's no ban or anything, so you just go through and play it that way. And then you can't, once you're in quarterfinal territory, have that throwaway deck.
Yeah. And I think we kind of saw that earlier. You know, I feel like I'm harping on Kenneth a lot, and I'm really sorry about it, especially if you've been watching. But bringing in the Bellona deck, a little confusing. Still a little.
So much hate for the Bellona.
She loses me so much. I
Sounds
feel
like
like
a
it could have been
personal
so
problem.
great. But I mean, we haven't seen her win today, so maybe
fair.
there's a argument of some sort.
Maybe she's won some hearts. She's always
she
won
has
my
Cupid.
heart. Yeah, Cupid out there putting in a little work for her. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, that's the only set that we've seen with her today, and it didn't go quite well. Whereas a lot of upwash, more Odin than we had seen before.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see what's going to be the first matchup. And sneaking over to our cheat sheet, it looks like Arlo is going to be bringing out the Upwash, then Belgian Grump is bringing out the Bellona. Belgian Bellona. So
he's made it to finals now.
And he 3-0'd in semifinals.
This was absolutely a shot towards me. He's been planning it this entire time. Yeah. He was like, I know who's going to be casting today. I'm going to go ahead and throw that out there.
If he's been listening to streams,
he's just sitting there laughing about it.
Yeah, so that's going to be the first matchup right here. And then the Mercury to start it off on his side means that he can actually take out the zombie that's on the board, get the complete clear with the hits that he got, responded to by an Awilish.
Not necessarily the best hand you could have. A lot of late game climb up. And honestly, at this point, it's kind of what you need. He's getting a lot on the field, getting the card draws that he needs. With Mercury there, it's just a nice 3-body to kind of have standing out there. Wheelix is going to be a little bit disorienting, I want to say, for that one, because she can just take him down without having to worry too much about it. So it depends on how Arlo plays this. Again, hoping for maybe not as many early Raise the Graves to try and keep himself in this one.
Mm-hmm. And then the placement that Belgian Grump has done for his units makes a lot of sense because he doesn't want them to get immediately defeated by a Wheelish. So pushing them there in the back line. The spawning of a zombie right there in the center of the two is somewhat interesting because it means that he's probably looking for some sort of bait or, trying to use one of the resources and force the positioning of Belgian Grump.
And I feel like Belgian not getting the draws you would exactly want because, again, at this point, he has 4 mana. He's about to have 5 in this next turn, so he can finally start playing some of these. But looking into it, I mean, he's drawn the Hercules twice, which is going to be great, especially for trying to deal with this Awilix. It will be able to knock off that first damage immunity, so he will be able to kill her going into this next turn. But the big thing is the fact that he's had to wait so long before getting anything out really on his board other than this Harpy and Mercury that it's almost in a bad situation for him. Not necessarily enough to cause the game to slip out of his hands, but it's just not a good start for a character that isn't usually perceived as the best, but I'm hoping I want to see him prove me wrong.
Right. And there you go. The Hercules coming on down. That in combination with a hit from the Elder Harpy to take out a Wheelish. There is a War Behemoth on the side of Arlo that has the potential to get some decent draw if given the opportunity to do so. But we'll have to see what he goes for. And that's the nice thing about Xbalanque is you can, lose some value by killing your own zombies and stuff, but then you can get yourself some draws. If you have a Kukulkan on the board, sometimes you can get a lot of value out of that with collaboration. Many possibilities.
And he is going to go ahead and drop out that Kukulkan. Nice in the back line, exactly where we expect to see him. See what he can get out of that. And using the Behemoth to just kind of go face, force a movement out of this. No matter what, he can't get killed just yet. So he knows for a fact that he can get a draw out of it if there's any aggro onto him. But it looks like Kukulkan is the primary target here for Belgian Grump. He's going to take him out in pretty much no time. Having 2 of those Hercules has really paid off.
Ah, yeah. And that's perfect damage to take care of Kukulkan as well. You get the 1 ping from the Hercules that pulled him. And then you have your follow-up to finish off that remaining 5 health on the unit. But Kukulkan went bye-bye. Now Arlo has some more decisions to make. Will he use his draw mechanic first? If you're going to hit with War Behemoth at some point during this turn, you always want to do so first to use that. And that's what he does. And pulls a Tomb Warden.
Actually has a lot of combo potential. Throws the Tomb Warden down. He will end up losing his Behemoth if he follows that up with the Xbalanque, but he still gets the draw off of it, and he will turn that Tomb Warden into the nice 6/5 that he can become And that has a ton of potential to kind of just give him that ramp that he needs, especially now that he's facing a Hercules. And as we can see, there's a Blade Master in there. There's a Fire Giant in there. Terra, I believe, is peeking her head out on the very left-hand side. So really keeping things close, giving him that ability to kind of deal with those when they come out would be a little bit better for him.
Yeah, if there were a zombie on board, there'd be a way to go ahead and put the Camazotz down to take out the Hercules and still survive.
Yeah.
The problem is that's not the optimal play without the zombie, because then it would just be a direct trade. So in this case, this play right here where he's using the Barter Soul and manages to get the 6/5 out.
Now, he threw a Curses out after there, but he did get the Kukulkan back, so I'm wondering if he was just hoping for something other than the Awilix, but ultimately he has that one, gets another card there, Chaos Spawn. A lot of things starting to look up for him if he decides he wants to try and get back out that Kukulkan. But with the way things are going, his board has been cleared. He has a Decay. He has a lot of options in his arsenal.
Right.
And the question is, what does he want to play?
He might have anticipated the Terra. I could see a world where that's why he threw out the Curses,
Yeah.
realizing that he put both of them in line when that could be, the play that obviously followed up there and it worked really well in the favor. But a Decay being used, because the thing about Terra, really powerful Warcry, but then on top of that, she's a 6/6 body. So you want to take care of that as soon as possible.
It's one of those few targets, I think, again, there are a few targets that you always feel bad when you use like the Execute on. There's a few that you feel great about using it, and you can hold that Decay right there just to get rid of that Terra. And we see Mercury managing to live. He only has 1 life left. And as that stands right now, it looks like he should be turning into a zombie next turn if things go the way of Arlo. With the Fire Giant and the Fire Imps spawned in, it's going to be a lot of face damage.
Yep, and that looks like that's what he's going for. Instead of focusing the zombie, he probably figures he's not going to raise a grave with this board state, even if he did bring another zombie to the table, because there's just so much for him to actually have to break through, and a lot of it being at low HP, where it's not even that he would need that extra damage on his unit. So that's the nice way that he's been tracking the moves of his opponent so that he doesn't use resources excessively when he doesn't need to.
And the hard part of coming into this one at this point is he's not going to have an option for the Fire Giant or the Hercules right now. He has a lot that he needs to do and not enough to do to get to the point where he is going to be able to take control of this. Even if he wipes away the Fire Imps, even if he gets rid of the Mercury, there's still 10 damage on the board, and all of that's going to be swinging. At 14 health, you're already starting to feel that, like, that pressure getting pushed on you. You make the wrong move now, you end up falling because of it.
That's why Xbalanque is a nice way to clear some of these units, but not all of these units. And with only 1 zombie on board as well, he can't make anything strong enough to take out the Fire Giant. So it looks like Kukulkan's going to be the name of the game here so that he can trade and then hopefully get one of these taken farther away. But instead, the Fire Giant comes closer. You take that gamble, and it doesn't always work for you.
I like the idea. I like the play. The mentality behind it worked. But that's going to be 10 damage right to your face. 3 health is all that's left. And while we see Hercules finally getting thrown away, it doesn't mean too much when the Blade Master's there, and that was a clean win.
Yeah, very clean.
I actually feel bad about bad-mouthing Bologna this entire time now.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, just a little bit.
You would say
he's going to find me, and he's going to beat me with that deck.
Yeah, you would say she did pretty well in that matchup, right?
Very well.
Yeah.
Incredibly well.
To be fair,
almost
Bologna,
ridiculously well.
Yeah, didn't have a very good appearance up until that point, but worked very well for a Belgian Grump there, and now you can kind of see why he ended up 3-0ing as far as this one appearance of this one deck.
Yeah.
So the semifinal going in his favor.
Wondering if maybe he's playing it really, really risky, and we're going to see a Zeus come out of him. I don't think so, but it'd be kind of fun.
That would make my day if we just saw
finally a Zeus.
A Bologna, Zeus, Odin lineup. Because Odin, obviously, there's more Odin than there was before, but still the less favored of the pantheons when it comes to those we see quite often. I'm assuming, so that's a fall for the Upwash deck of Arlo. And in the quarterfinal and semifinal, the game that he lost was on the first Upwash appearance, but he always managed to come and win it on the second round. So maybe I could imagine a world where he's not losing his cool yet. He's thinking, all right, this has been kind of the trend of the day. It's okay, and it's
coming
fine.
back. And he kind of recognized it, and it's one of those things where it does really matter. It seems like with his deck specifically, and this goes for a lot of decks, but this one has worked drastically different based on the hand he gets, where sometimes he just steamrolls. He comes in, it's like, oh yeah, that was the easiest game I ever played. And then other times he gets stomped, and it's just like the deck seems to have a specific tempo that he's going for that he just hasn't quite found every game. And that game was another example of that, where he had kind of the cards, but he didn't have the answers in time. And with the starting deck, the starting hand, even though it didn't look that great for Belgian Grump, still came out on top, because once you have enough mana, all of a sudden, hey, look, 5/5, 5/5, 5/8, everything coming out. At that point, you're just so big, there's nothing anyone can do.
And Belgian Grump, man, really put Bologna to work in game number 1. Won't have Bologna anymore, so she's gonna be on the side, and that'll be the only Bologna that we won't see anymore today, because we know that Arlo isn't running Bologna. And then now the victory on Bologna on the side of Belgian Grump means that he can't run her back. So I am curious to see what matchup he goes for, especially when trying to anticipate if Arlo is going to continue with Upwash and try to get that second victory, or if he tries to change it up a little bit.
Yeah, and that's going to be, I think, the big step for Arlo. His Odin deck is pretty much exactly what you would expect from an Odin deck, but it does get him online a little bit faster, so he can start moving things, and might be the kind of refresher he needs. I think the last few times we've really been able to watch him. Of course, we didn't get to watch that last match between him, but still been running that Upwash quite a lot, and of course with the best of 5s, he's going to have to play it again no matter what, but he could decide to change it up just to get the refreshing take.
Yeah, but it does look like he is going to have that next time he plays it be now, as he chooses to stick with it, and then a response with a new Wa on the side of Belgian Grump. So potentially going to use those Crescent Blades to try and zap down those zombies as soon as he possibly can. But this is going to be game number 2 of the finals. Arlo will be on the starting side with Belgian Grump on side number 2.
And this has been a matchup that we've seen a few times today, and it's kind of gone back and forth. Sometimes the Upwash can get exactly what he needs going, get the deck rolling out to the point where he's able to just kind of run in and be perfectly fine. And on other times, we've seen the Nuwa have that response that she needs every single step of the way and kind of keep control of the board, which is exactly what the name of the game has been so far today.
So now, of course, right there at the start, seeing a little bit of trading. It was zombie, crescent blade, zombie, crescent blade, now a zombie. Will it be a Crescent Blade? But now at 4 mana, you'll have a few more options. Going ahead once again, throwing down that Crescent Blade.
And this is the pain, I think, of the first few turns. Every turn you're going to see, I'm going to throw out a zombie because I don't have any other options right now, or my options aren't really looking that great. Do you decide, well, I'm going to throw out Crescent Blade? That's the only real option you have. You don't want that zombie to just continue sitting there, so you're going to push a little bit forward. But now we see some behemoths coming out. A Crescent Blade, though, being pocketed right there, and that's going to be potentially big, as I do believe I saw an Ao Kuang earlier on in that hand. I think I see a Wukong as well, so a lot of potential to be played through here.
Who knew that 5 mana would actually be the real start of the game?
The real start.
When the War Behemoth came down. And then that's when we really see things starting to fire up. But back on the side of Arlo, now the question is, how is he going to follow up on this play? He could develop a Tomb Warden and then also a zombie if he wants to fill that out a little bit. We'll have to see.
With the Behemoth being able to go face like that, so this one I feel like has a bunch of mixed plays. A lot of players don't want to get aggressive onto it. And the Chieftain being in, that's going to be the new big target. That's going to be the main one that is going to be the main addressee of all of the damage that Belgian Grump can kind of throw down. And he has a ton of cards, a ton of options, but again, he has to make sure that he does the right order and the right decision, because in this kind of playstyle, especially with Arlo running this deck back, he has a little bit of a feel of the cards that he has available to him. And as we can see, there's going to be enough that it's not going to be the best responses overall, but by the end of it, things can definitely go out of hand here.
Arcane Conduit is a really nice way to try and keep things off of your Summoning Stone because of that 2 damage that it deals to every enemy around whenever a spell is played. And we haven't seen it within the past few tournaments, but I believe a week ago from today, I think last Saturday, we actually saw it have somewhat of an impact. So now that combination does give some draw, but at least eliminates one of the units and body blocks the next.
I feel like the Chieftain he's just getting the short end of the stick today, just because he's never been able to like fully flourish, and even going under this like falling forward, I don't see him really getting a lot of utility. Even though he's an 8/7, even though he's going to be nice and big, I just don't see him making it very far towards the end of this, just because of how many responses, especially as Nuwa, that you can have to this. And it seems like Arlo potentially thinking about that himself as well, as he again has a ton of options to play. 7 mana. Camazot's not necessarily likely, although he does have that in his hand, just kind of keep pocketed for later. Obviously, he would want way more zombies out if he can at least get them to get that buff. And having to deal now with the 2 damage every time Nuwa plays a spell, and as someone who can manufacture spells like it's nothing, it gets a little bit more difficult to deal with that damage.
Yeah. That's something where then are you going to end up using a Chaos Spawn just to go ahead and cancel that out? Because if you want to use these units in a surrounding fashion, especially with your zombies, this is probably one of the matchups in which that card, Arcane Conduit, is most effective.
And that does kind of force Arlo into this position where, like, if he wants, the zombies to be any of use, he has to use the Raise the Grave. You get that out. You have a couple silences on the other side, where now we see the Guan Yu kind of being brought in. If you do not get them going as fast as you can, they're just going to get eliminated off the field like it's nothing.
Yep. And that's something that you really have to keep in mind there. And a Chaos Spawn coming out on the side of Belgian Grunt means that that's back to a 6/5. Of course, something that you said in an early match where Chieftain, at the very least, when silenced, is a 6/5. So you can still get some kind of value out of it, even if it's just clearing a couple units. But feels bad when you just had some double-digit stats.
Yeah, but I feel like Arlo's not going to be too worried about it. He now has 2 6/5s. Well, one's a 6/3 now, but going to be able to kind of keep them going. The Demon Bag actually going to get used. Not enough damage, but the Crescent Blade should be enough to finish that off. That's going to be the Tomb Warden knocked away. The Chieftain's still kind of hanging out up there. Not as much damage going to be dumped into that by Belgian Grump just yet, but he's still looking like he's preparing for it. The Guan Yu, the Ao Kuang, I think 2 Ao Kuangs actually, as well as the Sun Wukong, all still kind of being held and still going to be very just adept at what they're going to need to do, especially looking at what Arlo has to kind of give as a response.
Now the Chieftain, of course, moving forward first, some of that clear. And the nice thing is, if you're going to be a ranged unit attacking into a ranged unit, you're going to take that return damage either way. So it gives you, at the very least, you can think, I can put this wherever I want to. But the nice thing with these Fire Imps is it looks like they're going to be the ones just running right into Zhongqi, because that Demon Bag was used. You don't even have to worry about it getting buffed up anymore. You're just worried about the unit. Yeah,
young Jonathan Quay going to be thrown out there. Unfortunate for him, as we see, again, the Chieftain 6/3 now, taking a little bit of damage there, but still a 6/3. And 1 Crescent Blade is all it will take if he steps into that field to kill him off, but that can still be 6 full damage if they go through. But with the Guan Yu and everything going through, it looks like it should ultimately be the end. There is 1 more Crescent Blade going to throw onto the Fire Giant. I'm going to be able to clear off 2 big bodies off the board.
2 nice ways. He could have put the other Crescent Blade onto the Fire Giant as well, and then cleared them both. I think he realized that after, but maybe that 1 HP extra on the Fire Giant will come back to haunt him, or maybe it won't even matter. Decay going right onto Guan Yu, that's a very viable target for that card when going against Nuwa, so it makes a lot of sense there to make that happen. And then that zombie is probably going to die anyway, so you might as well use a Barter Soul to get some draw out of it.
At this point, the Fire Giant can still take a little bit of damage, although with the Wukong coming in, possibly the Ox form, just to get a little bit of damage down. To come down, 1 more spell is all it's going to take, and that's going to be able to kill off the Fire Giant. So that's going to stop some of that damage coming through. You still have to be Belgian Grump. You're at 14 HP on your Summoning Stone. So you're getting a little bit sweaty about what's going on. You're a little bit worried, especially after you just came off a hot 3-0, and after that Bologna game, you're feeling yourself. You're getting a little bit crunched up.
Yeah. Now, you have a better unit on the board, obviously, with the 6/7 compared to an empty board. And then naturally, the Arcane Conduit aspect does afford some of that protection. But Blood Bond, a nice way to go ahead and take away this one threat. Of course, once again, these zombies are really a hugely amazing target for this enchantment of the Summoning Stone. But with Raise the Grave being a nice way to add some of that survivability.
He can at least live for a little bit, because any Summoning Sickness on the side of Belgian Grump, it's going to be stuck. He could, depending on how he goes for it, if he wants to, the Hebo could potentially knock one of those zombies completely away to the point where it's just like, okay, you have one of them, I'm going to play a spell, now it's at 2 health. If it's a Crescent Blade, now it's at 1 health. The other one knocked back into your hand. Hey, spend a mana to play a 1/1 zombie. It's not going to be the best thing for Arlo there, but it's going to be enough to go through, and that's exactly what he's going to do. As you can see, just 1 mana. That zombie is going to be pretty much worthless when it comes into it.
Yeah, bumping it right back, and then the Alquang coming on does mean that that zombie is going to go bye-bye as well. Crescent Blade dealing 2 damage, and then the 2 damage triggered by the spell proccing. So now back on the side of Arlo. He's had a pretty healthy sized hand this entire time. It's just a matter of what kind of win condition he's going to be able to carry out.
And the problem has really been getting multiples of them out. So, like, even now he can play a lot of things all in one turn, but it's not really going to get him anything for doing it. Just getting the bodies out there isn't going to be enough. He still has to kind of worry about the order, the way things are going to interact with each other. It's like, okay, so maybe you play the Xbalanque, maybe you get a little bit of extra damage, maybe you can take out that Hebo. It'll be great. And actually, he's going to spawn a zombie there for the Chieftain. I actually really like that move. Just kind of, again, the order of things will matter. Now he has an 8/6. Yeah. He still has to worry about that Arcane Conduit just around that, like, that spell dealing damage. Moving anything to Summoning Stone range is going to hurt.
You could get cheeky, throw some zombies in there, and then hope that the Chieftain doesn't get answered, and just make them all die so that you can move that forward and get a good hit. I mean, their Summoning Stone's down to 13 HP, and you've got an 8 unit, but that's why Belgian Grump is prioritizing burning it down as much as possible, and then killing him.
And the Alquang just proven his worth every step of the way. Like, yes, you play one spell, he's not within the range, he's not going to be able to do it, but doubling that damage, having 2 coming down from the Crescent Blade, just enough accompanying that Fire Giant. There's still a couple of answers still in Belgian Grump's hand, but at this point he's looking like he could potentially turn his aggression on at this point, start getting more antsy with his attacks, maybe go in a little bit deeper. We can see on the other side, though, Arlo still has the Kukulkan, he still has a Cabrakan, still has a Blade Master, still has the Camazotz, all just kind of holding back, waiting for the right moment.
Yeah, there's a Blood Bond in hand if he wanted to go ahead and put down a zombie and take the gamble. There's the Blade Master as well, but that's not going to be able to reach the Alquang, which is kind of what you would want it to be able to take out, since that's all the way down to 4 HP. Cabrakan development could be nice, but with a Fire Up in hand to begin attacking right onto this Fire Giant, you have to body block before he gets to that stone. And then Blade Master to finish it up. So that's a nice combination right there to get rid of one of the threats. And then maybe you can move that towards, I mean, I'm assuming he's going to get taken care of by a Crescent Blade at the very least, with Alquang still on the board.
At this point, it's just one of those things that it's almost deadly at this point to leave anything at 2 health. There's not much Alpwash can do about it, but still, he has to take that into consideration. That 2 health isn't 2 health anymore. That 2 health isn't, hey, you can live through this. That's going to go down, and now with the leader ability costing 2 less, that's going to just be free Crescent Blades constantly coming out here for Belgian Grump.
At least you can take some solace in the fact that he's not stacking up the Crescent Blades anymore. As soon as he forges one, then he plays it immediately. But getting the 2 damage that he can, and then he doesn't really care about the Xbalanque. I mean, once you get that immediate value, it's not as much of an issue. This is a decent pull. I think all of the ones on boards are threats, but that's one that's been a huge issue for you because of that additional damage right there. So now the second Raise the Grave coming on out, and finally seeing the Chaos spawn to take away the Arcane Conduit effect.
I like the Raise the Grave there. I was kind of wondering if he was going to do that or go for the Camazotz, try to get some of that damage going as fast as possible and kind of put the hurt down for Belgian Grump. But going in for the Raise the Grave, at least going to force some trade outs here and be able to kind of wipe the field and continue to gain control of it. The Alquang, the second Alquang now coming out, though, it's going to be a little rough, and then another Crescent Blade going to be able to kill off that zombie. So left with only a 2-3, he still has the Kukulkan, still has the Cabrakan, and those two are looking like the ones that might be the most potential to come forward from Arlo.
I feel like as Arlo, you have to be thinking, are you kidding me? I just got rid of an Alquang. How is there another one? Jeez. And now I have to find another way. But he's still sitting at a very healthy stone.
Yes.
He's not top decking or anything like that. So I think it's still, even though there's a board state in the favor of Belgian, there's still an HP state in the favor of Arlo. Equality in number of cards in hands, both at 10 mana. So there's an opportunity for both to switch it around. The only thing is, while the Raise the Grave was effective in getting some clear, that means there is no more Raise the Grave available for Arlo. So that's one win condition just taken off the table.
Now we're going to be seeing Arlo trying to figure out what exactly he wants to go with. It looks like he's just going to throw the zombie out, get the Camazotz, have that free 6 damage. And it's not going to be body block, so he can go face with that. But he's going to turn it, and I like that move. Go to the Zhang Kui. It's going to be building up that demon bag and get rid of it as soon as possible to make sure that that damage not going to be reciprocated onto you. When we look at the other side, 2 Hu Yis kind of laying in wait. A lot of options still on the board. If he trades out the Alquang, that's going to be a kill, but he's going to go, again, with Crescent Blade, there's no reason to trade out someone you don't need to trade out. He gets a nice draw from that. That should be the kill on the Camazotz. Still finding himself at 11 HP, though.
Yep. There's still some ground to be made, but I'm assuming we're going to see some development of some units with the Gladiator is a nice way to get those Crescent Blades for free. Of course, at 10 mana with the number of cards in hands and the cost of them, it's not as much of an issue. But at the very least, a 4/4 body is nice as well. And then gives you a little leeway in how you play on your curve. But Arlo here, 2 Cabrakans in hand as well as a Kukulkan. I'm assuming we'll see at least one of these Cabrakans come down. Or actually... Okay, so... Now this means Alquang is just a little step closer, but only at 1 damage. He's not range. Like, he can potentially run into the Kukulkan, but then he loses on a little ability. So with your Crescent Blades, then why not just take care of it that way?
And now the Alquang's in a weird position because with only 1 health, he's not the safest unit. But he's right next to the Summoning Stone. There's nothing else for him to attack. There's nothing for him to really worry about. So just being able to go face swing 8 right there and take that down from 25 to 17. And Arlo's starting to slowly but surely run out of responses. Although that Ritual Strike is a really good draw for the certain circumstances, and one of them's right now.
Yeah, it'll be a good way to go ahead and take that out. He did get 4 damage onto the stone with the body before anything happened. And that was because he took the Kukulkan risk. You never know where they're going to bring him. Sometimes it can work against you, sometimes for you. But in this case, Ritual Strike turning that into a zombie. But you're going to have to get a bit more development if you want to combat the board at hand.
And especially the board that is just soon to come, because looking at it, another Hu Yi is kind of laying in the wait. As well as the Chaos Spawn, a Habwa, both of them going to be applicable. I feel like if a Cabrakan comes down at any point, it's going to be knocked right back up into that hand. It's not going to be a big issue. And that's going to continue Belgian Grum's kind of control of this board, which so far it's been kind of going back and forth, bouncing between the two of them. But he's had, I want to say, a more solid lead each time that he's taken control.
Yeah, I feel like if Cabrakan comes down, then first answer, bounce it back. Next answer, Chaos Spawn it. Or now there's 2 of them, so he could actually
do both
if he if he so desires. A nice turnaround of the board state in terms of getting these extra bodies on board and then developing a zombie as well, so that he can try and pull some of the focus of Belgian Grum.
What I like here is the amount of options that Belgian Grum has. Dragon King's not going to be the best one to pull out right now, although he could absolutely kill at least, a zombie and a Cabrakan. Not necessarily the most worthwhile way to spend your Dragon King. And unfortunately for him, it's going to lose his 4/4 because of the positions of those Cabrakans. I don't think he took that one into account before he played it, or he did and he just didn't care when it comes down to it. But one of them taken off, the other one potentially going to get silenced here, depending on how he wants to play this. And it looks like the Hu Yi is going to be going face damage, going to be able to kill off that zombie as well.
Yeah, he could have moved the Gladiator back just so it wouldn't die for nothing. There's still the potential it dies for nothing later, but at least not in that moment. But yeah, instead, then moving the Hui forward means that he can attack the summoning stone and then get that ricochet, which did go ahead and attack or kill the zombie. But now you're right in front of this Cabrakan that's just still chilling there.
I kind of feel a little bit of questions coming up from Belgian Grum, just the way that he's played that he's taken a lot of damage to his own units just by way of using the Cabrakan passive against himself, really. Like, kind of not necessarily wiping his own board, but I mean taking off some really useful big units just because he decided to play an extra card, not move anybody away, or even with the Hui moving him into the Cabrakan passive zone so that it could get traded out right there.
Yep, and now both Huis are gone. I feel like it might have been a case of sometimes Cabrakan's just one of those cards that no matter how many times you run into it, a lot of players will just blank for a second. You're thinking kind of 2 moves ahead, and then you forget about the current board state and the difference that makes. But you have to give it to Belgian Grum, even with those plays there. He still managed to even out how things are going in terms of HP on both sides, 13 to 11, where he's hoping just to burn past any of the win conditions of Arlo.
And it looks like now the main goal has pretty much just become how much face damage can I deal to you and how quickly can I do it so I can use this Demon Bag, use this Dragon King, and just completely eliminate you. Because as it stands right now, he doesn't have enough damage just yet. He's almost there, but he hasn't found his way to get lethal quite yet. And I think as long as this Behemoth stays alive, he might be able to find it. The Dragon King's going to play a big role in whether or not he's going to be able to win this game. And honestly, it's up to Arlo. He has 11 health to get through, and he has to get through it pretty fast.
Oh, but now Blade Master into the hand of Arlo as well. So that's something that he could potentially play with. I wonder how much is on that Demon Bag in terms of the damage that he can deal. But it's been a while since Zhonghui actually came onto the table there. Moving all the units up. Okay, so 5 damage on that Demon Bag. So that's actually a pretty hefty amount considering how short of a time that we've seen some of the Zhonghuis stick around. And 2 damage, though, onto or 2 HP, rather, right there onto the stone. That Blade Master made a huge turnaround here.
And now just waiting. He's watching. Arlo is trying to calculate, can I finish this? Am I going to lose? Is there any way that he is going to be able to take me from 16 to 0? And it doesn't quite look like it. It just really depends on what Belgian Grum draws. If he gets the perfect card, he can try to turn this around. But he needs, I think, 5, maybe 4 more damage to be drawn onto the board. And with the way things are sitting, it's not looking very good for him in terms of actually getting the units over there if he gets it.
Oh, boy. All right. What do you get?
He got a Blade Master.
You get a Blade Master. So
I don't think he can hit it.
I mean, Blade Master in combination. Well, you need to hit with your War Behemoth first to see what you draw. You gotta go ahead and, I mean, Blade Master in combination with your War Behemoth takes out the enemy Blade Master, if you so please, and then you could take out a zombie with your Chaos Bomb, but it's kinda, you're in a rough pickle, mate.
I think that's the light way to put it. You're at 2 HP. There's a play here that gets you going.
Yeah. All right, and you have the Cabrakans.
The Cabrakans were right there.
I was thinking they were both silenced.
Those both do
for
2
some
damage.
reason. Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking that they were like both silenced and that they couldn't actually do that damage anymore. I was thinking, yeah, just the bodies. Nope. Once you play the card, they deal it.
That was it.
A lot of time wasted trying to calculate how he could do that.
Trying to figure that
out.
It's just like, oh yeah, no, you're taking 2 damage no matter what. You're actually out of this game, and we're trying to figure out how can you win this.
How can you win this? Because the Cabrakans are actually still active, so there's that. But yeah, that means that it's actually a tied up series now. 1-1
for anyone who might not have been here for it or who might have forgotten. The first one went this way of Belgian Grump, with a very convincing Bologna win.
Yeah, so since Bologna's been kind of that pantheon that's very wishy-washy, it's good to get that win on her like that.
Especially
and then,
that fast.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about maybe having one of those scenarios where you don't draw right into the curve that you want to draw into. But with this victory going for Arlo, it's a scenario we talked about. This is the 3rd series in a row where he's gotten a loss on Upwash, and then
a win.
One on the second time. All of his losses before in those series were on the Upwash, and then he's looking to make that a repeat factor here.
Yeah, and at this point, we know the other decks he's bringing in, and potentially going maybe for the Odin, although I don't know how well that one would fare up, especially if we see Belgian run back the Nuwa, because that one, a lot of counters were coming out, and Odin's not necessarily the easiest countered, but he can get taken down pretty well by a Nuwa deck, especially one that has been built like that. So that one's going to be, I think, the more dangerous deck for Arlo to run into.
Yeah, we know that Nuwa is on the table for Belgian Grunt. We're not quite sure what the other one is. I'm assuming it's Upwash. Yeah. I don't think I've seen a player that hasn't brought Upwash to the table. So then it becomes a question of, you know that the mirror option is not an option with Upwash because now Arlo no longer has that available. But having to figure out what that matchup is going to be as part of the game with Conquest, making those guesses.
Yeah, and part of what Arlo is going to have to do at this point, I mean, like that one wasn't necessarily the cleanest win. He was taking a lot, but he did have the responses for it. In the future, he's going to have to play it more a lot more carefully. Like when it comes down to it, there were some perfect card draws there that came through, and a lot of Cabrakan being utilized very, very well. Not necessarily by him on purpose, but having Belgian kind of play into that, and I think not really consider how much damage he could have had. I mean, there was a Hu Yi that died, there was a Hebo that died, a lot of gods that were taken completely off the board just because he decided, I'm going to rush him right into the Cabrakan zone. Like, why do that when you don't have to? It was to get a little bit of extra face damage when it's like you could have waited, maybe taking care of the Cabrakans first.
Yeah, one of the biggest turns of the game was when he had that unnecessary damage from Cabrakan onto his units. The Gladiator was removed. The Huyis were put in a very unfavorable position, which allowed them to get picked off by follow-up units, where they wouldn't, I don't think, I'm trying to remember specifically to the card state for the Hand of Arlo, but I don't think they would have gotten picked off like that if they didn't take that 2 damage from each of them.
They might have ended up picked off, not necessarily in the same way, but it might have been better because he would have had to pull the Cabrakans away, so they would have left the Summoning Stone, and they would have put themselves in a position where they had to take a lot of damage. They wouldn't just be able to kind of free farm off everybody by dealing 2 damage in a radius instead of taking no damage themselves. And could have been a lot better, I think, for Belgian, but overall, it's not the play he ended up making. He ended up losing that game because of it. And that might not be like the root cause, like this was exactly what lost you the game, but there was a lot of questionable decisions in the matter of a few turns there.
Things that just didn't quite work out. But this is going to be, shouldn't be too long before we get into game number 3. Tied up series, which, as we said during the semifinal, is it basically becomes a best of 3 series. When 2 of the decks are taken off the table, both of them have a win. It means that you are just clean slate, obviously, with your opponent, and gonna have to move in with that. But one thing for sure is now Arlo has to be feeling a bit better, considering that the decks he has left are ones that he's, at least in the series we saw, only got victories on.
Yeah, and at this point, he's, like you said, not only feeling that, but put the pressure on Belgian, who just came off of a hot 3-0 in the semifinal. So at this point, Belgian himself is probably a little bit worried just because he's like, okay, I'm in the finals. Yeah, I can get second place if things go poorly. And at this point, with only 2 games off the board and it being 1-1, they can both afford another loss, but it's not the most comfortable spot to be in. And again, the one thing that people kind of forget is the longer the tournament goes on, especially if you've made it this far, mentality starts to wear down. You've been thinking about these cards all day, and at this point, you're like, man, now I have to play another one. I have to keep going into it. And some fatigue could set in for these players, as I think we're about to get into game number 3, finally.
And we have Pandemonium. For Odin here. So it is going to be Belgian Grump on Odin here with the panda skin, and then the raw run back for Arlo. He hasn't brought it out in this series yet, but the only successful raw that we have seen today.
And hopefully for Arlo, he wants that to be the same results that we get to see going into this. Of course, it's going to be a little bit difficult, though, because raw does have some troubles. And some of those troubles can be exploited, really, by Odin. And with the way things are going, it's really nice to actually have that Sobek going out early, but almost immediately Odin taking him down. That's kind of one of the things that's been the theme for Raw decks today is, hey, I know you really, really, really love having Sobek out there. And he's gone.
He knows how much of a troublemaker Sobek can be, so putting him in timeout early. And now a development of Soul as well means that Belgian Grump can really try to control this board as much as possible if he manages to keep that unit on the board.
With the way things are going, the way the hand is right now for Arlo, it looks like kind of the similar story that we've seen for a few games where not a lot to do right now, not a lot to do for the first few turns, kind of locked into the options that he has left. He's actually going to go ahead and use that last breath. Not usually something you end up seeing when one of the members that you could hit with it is just a 1/1 warrior.
Yeah, it was either that or the Magma Slam, which would target one of them, but then he didn't have a way of answering the other. So I guess he just saw this as the better option. Now with Ymir on the board, of course, that's something that you don't like dealing with, that you might be wishing that you had some way to go ahead and answer that. But as far as things to develop in bodies, there's War Behemoth in hand. He could just put that in the back line. There's also a Thoth, which is what I'm about to say, and that's what he ends up bringing out to set that up for some potential plays.
And that's going to be mainly to try and help deal with this Ymir. We have seen however many times at this point Ymir can get out of hand very fast, especially with the way this Norse deck has been running, and I believe it's actually Arlo who we were watching who was kind of running rampant with it, just being able to kind of combo that with a Hell and with a few other gods that are built into the deck that are just enough to make this Ymir a very deadly force. But the silence coming out onto Thoth makes him just another 3/5 where it's still going to be useful, still going to have that range damage, but when it comes down to it, still not going to be as useful as it could have been.
Yep, he could combo a hit from Thoth with the Magma Slam to take off the Ymir next time around. But that's the downside to playing Thoth on curve, is later on when you can play it in combination with your leader ability or something of the sort, you get that immediate value. But in this case, it was a setup play, and the setup didn't quite work out. So I'm assuming, though, before Ymir actually gets any of his own value, that Arlo is going to do what he can to just take it off of the board.
And we see a couple Kepris, I think we've seen throughout the day, but that's been another one that's been comboed not only with Sobek, but also with the Thoth, just to get that a little bit of extra damage down. And that's just not going to work out for him now. And it's looking like he's considering trying to trash this Ymir and get rid of him as fast as possible. This is one of the, I think, harder decisions to make, because you see your Thoth and you're like, this guy was going to be such great utilization. I had a plan for him.
Yeah.
And when all of your plans end up getting disrupted like that, it looks like, we're going to just see him go immediately in for the kill. At this point, he's just going to be a 3/5, but he actually uses the Anubis to close him off to be able to wrap up the warrior as well.
Yeah, did not recognize that in hand, but now he's right there, popped onto the board, so a nice way to go ahead and take those out, play a bit more on curve, get more value for that as well. But the crippling curse to be thrown right on down, give to Moonin as well to finish it off, so that Anubis won't be a problem anymore.
I like the play to get rid of the Anubis as fast as possible, because 4/5, it's going to be hard to kill, just especially with an Odin deck that seems to be having a little bit of issues kind of ramping up to the rate that you would want it to. Seems to be wanting to run a little bit more mid-range, which, like we've mentioned a couple times, players are starting to lean more that way with the way they play. We're going to see the Blade Master come out on the side of Arlo just to try and help clear this field. And as we look in the hand of Belgian, we see there's a Thor, we see there's a Ymir, we see there's a Fire Giant, and that's going to be the one that comes out. And that one's going to help clear some of this board.
Yep, you can go ahead, smack with 1, smack with 2, and then smack with 3 to finish off the Blade Master. Fire Giant, of course, being placed all the way in the back line, which means it's going to take a bit before he can come into the fray, but Thoth, like you said, still 3/5. Recognizable as something that can go ahead and start hitting down, which is what he's going to do.
It seems like Arlo kind of patiently waiting, like he's still collecting his thoughts as to what exactly, or like what order he wants to go with things. He's going to get a Behemoth off of that Recruiter, which not the best thing you could really pull out, but it's definitely not the worst that you could pull out, because it's going to still allow him to kind of mill that and get his deck out and get some of the cards he would rather have on the board.
It's nice in the sense that he gets a 5 mana card for 4 mana, basically. And War Behemoth help him get some draw into some other cards he may be fishing for. And with 2 of them on the board, it's a lot less likely for both of them to get answered. And a nice line of sight as well, so that, you know, you can get those blocks of these different passageways.
And it looks like, let me see. Again, just trying to figure out where he wants to go. Does he want to get aggressive with the Thoth? Answer's no. In the end, he's going to just kind of hold it back. Both Summoning Stones still now at 25 HP after being healed back up from the Blade Master on the one side. And Belgian Grump now stuck in this position where he has to decide what he wants to do. He does have a Blade Master in his hand, which can be useful for getting that 4 damage down. But you really, again, it's one of those things you don't want to use it unless you get the healing as well. A lot of players kind of want to hold on to it. He is going to be forced to use it. He wants to get rid of this Thoth as fast as possible, so he's going to go ahead and kind of take that one down and use that Odin passive just to go ahead and remove the Thoth from play. But he's still now at a 4/4 Blade Master with no healing provided to a Summoning Stone.
Particularly in this matchup, Odin just doesn't have a lot of heal.
Yeah.
So Blade Master, that's the heal. So if you're having to play that down without getting it, if you were raw, maybe you wouldn't care as much. Maybe missing out on that proc onto some of your other cards like a Sobek or a Thoth would suck. But as far as getting the heal onto your stone, you have other ways to make up for it. Odin, not so much.
Now there is another Sobek in the hand of Arlo. The first one met his unfortunate demise very, very early on, but the other one does have potential to continue staying alive. And he does, again, I forgot that he had this in there, but he has his Fist of the Gods ready and available for whenever that needs to come out. It looks like he is going to play the Sobek. He doesn't have the healing yet, but there's going to be the Khepri, and that's going to be a nice big buff for him, as well as if he decides to go forward for hitting this Behemoth or hitting the Blade Master with the Behemoth.
Yeah, that was a nice play to grow the Sobek larger, get the damage onto these War Behemoths so that you got the draw as well, which was super sweet.
The glory of that turn, and the glory, I think, of Ra is the ability to be able to take that Sobek that was pretty much put up 1/3, much like the first one, but in the one turn make it a 5/7. And the one turn that you had, you were able to buff it up just enough that it's way harder to kill at this point. It's really hard to get 7 damage down onto a single unit, especially when your Fire Giant, of all things, is going to be stunned for at least one more. And now with the way that the Behemoths are starting to get positioned, a lot of body blocks, a lot of movement blocking is going to be coming through here. And depending on how Arlo plays this next turn, he's pretty much guaranteed this Sobek to be safe.
And now, taking a bit of time to make his turn, he wanted to put the rune down so that he could go ahead and get this charge onto all of his units, but also didn't want it to get traded. So a nice summoning here so that he can trade into it without having to kill a unit, and then Ymir coming on down with that charge so that he can move forward and delay that Sobek's advancement.
Now Arlo, he has a lot of options. He did just draw an Execute in as well, which there are enough targets that he could kind of throw that for. A lot of them have been the Fire Giant. That's been the primary, just numero uno. If you have an Execute, you're going to get rid of this one. But that Ymir is still going to be troublesome. It's just 2 damage, which isn't as much to read into, but it's still the freeze. And as you can see, like with the Sobek the way it is, the Fire Giant is the choice. The Ymir's not something fun to deal with. The Khepri being able to trade out here should be a good choice overall. And we do have at least 1 healing for that Sobek that will then buff him even more. But if it's Ymir who's continually hitting the damage for it, then it's going to be Ymir constantly freezing and never having to take anything back.
Yeah, he won't actually take any damage on his own terms, but we'll have to see how things play out here with Arlo going ahead, finishing up his turn. The War Behemoth online, Sobek just chilling out a little bit. You know?
I like that.
Get it? Yeah.
That was nice. Subtle touch.
There we go. Needed one today. But now he's waking up, so sitting there as a 7/8, but he's just going to get targeted again by the Ymir.
Now there's a Fury in the hand of Belgian Grump, a Hell, and a Thor. There's a lot of combo potential. He can get the Hell and the Thor out on the same turn. The Fury is going to be one of those ones that he has to get out fast as possible. With the Thor charge up, run in, that's going to be leaving Sobek as a 7/2. While he doesn't quite have the amount of damage he needs to be able to finish it off, he is going to be able to get at least 1 more hit onto it. No, he's actually going to opt into the Fury here, just to be able to have that 6/6 body and nothing really to retaliate on the side of Arlo, or so he thinks.
And Belgian, he's running out of steam a little bit, comparing just hand size of both of these, where Arlo, on the other hand, has just so many options at his disposal. Only 5 cards left in his deck, so when it comes to actually drawing, he's not too far from not being able to draw anymore, and both of these stones are all the way at 25 HP, so there's a possibility we do see some fatigue setting in soon.
That's one of the things actually a lot of newer players don't usually get to encounter. They don't get to see the fatigue come through as often, but it starts dealing a lot of damage. At first, it's not as much. You think, oh yeah, I can take that. It's no big deal. It's just going to be 1 damage. It's like, okay, well now I've been dealt 3 damage. Now I've been dealt 6 damage. And it just continues on this path where everything goes downhill very, very fast for you. But with the way the play is going, we do see another Thoth come out. Sobek's now a 10-5, and it doesn't seem like there's much in terms of response. Actually using the Ymir to target the Thoth.
Yep, doesn't want him doing anything naughty anytime soon, because he was just able to clear one of his larger units for free. So bringing Scotty on down means Calder will probably be making an appearance as well. Go ahead and rush on in, but trying to make a decision of exactly where to spawn. All of the units for Arlo, one of them's looking pretty frisky.
And right now, the thing that's catching my eye is the fact that there's a Geb in the hand for Arlo as well. So that is going to count as healing, even with Sobek taking the damage Sobek has taken. That can heal him right back up. He's going to get that 3 health. Sobek's going to get buffed because of it. Thoth is going to fire off, which right now it's not going to hit anything, but you still have a lot of combo potential to kind of come through, and an Execute just kind of being held patiently in his hand, and a Blade Master still kind of hanging out in there. He is the one player who so far has not used one, just kind of keeping track of that one. But this should be ultimately the death of Ymir.
Yeah, Magma Slam right there onto Ymir, meaning
And
first hit onto the stone, and it's for 12 damage, nearly half of the HP of Belgian Grump.
With the potential to maybe buff up a little more. The Geb's still
that's what he's
playable.
trying to consider.
And I'm wondering if he wants to throw it out there. It's going to come down, throw it maybe onto the Sobek. He's going to throw the heal onto the Thoth, but now it's going to be 13. And that takes that 1 hit away. You have to be able to deal with that Sobek. And the Blade Master is going to be able to help out with that one.
Yeah, Blade Master coming on through isn't enough to finish off the Sobek, but that in combination with some other units on the board definitely can. It's a question of if he's going to do it, and yes, he should. I would say you kind of have to.
At this point, I like the call to keep the Scotty alive. Just having that ranged unit's going to be nice. But you are starting to feel the pressure. Because now, well, I mean, let alone if you just kind of ignore the fact that you were just hit for 13 and we're only able to heal a little bit of it. That's both Blade Masters off the board for Belgian. He doesn't have any more healing available for himself. And now there's a Thoth, a Geb, a Khepri, and we're going to see a Freya join the fray here for Arlo. And with the 4 damage coming down now from the Annihilate, he's looking to try and end this game as fast as possible.
Oh, man. So that's one thing. One thing that makes Annihilation so clean is that it doesn't just deal damage to the units on the board. Otherwise, you might be thinking, what? He did that just for what unit there? But getting the 4 damage onto the stone, already having its health at the time. So that means Arlo, in Arlo fashion, is up 2-1 in this series.
And now the second most successful Raw that we have seen, or no, the second successful Raw we have seen today.
Yeah,
the most
and all from
successful
him.
Raw.
Yeah. So he's actually been making this deck work in his favor during this matchup. So now he's won on Upwash and Raw, and he is looking for his own personal Odin win.
Yeah. This one's going to be, I think, the most interesting matchup, depending on if we see Belgian run back his Odin, or if he decides to kind of opt away from that. The Odin deck for Arlo was, at least from what we've seen, it looked very early oriented. You get as much out as you can as fast as possible, but a lot of the synergy seemed to be coming from kind of like that Hel Ymir Freya combo that he's been played. I think each time the Odins come out, he's managed to get all 3 on the board around the same time and just kind of help clear away what would be bothersome otherwise.
And Belgian Grump knows that he's facing Odin.
Yeah.
He knows that. So it's really up to him of whether he wants to do the mirror match or Nuwa. Nuwa can go ahead and, poke off some of those little critters that spawn from the leader ability, those cursed warriors. But the ball's in his court.
Yeah.
What is he going to do to try and stick in this series?
And one of the bigger problems that comes down is even if he says, let's go for the Nuwa, and he ends up winning it, he still has to come back and get a win with that Odin deck.
Yeah.
And it's going to be what could potentially become an Odin mirror match, or we might be going into an Odin mirror match. Either way, it's going to be interesting to see how both players kind of handle it, because the Odin v Odin is a little bit more difficult than I feel like some of the other Odin matchups that you would have.
Yeah, it's not as reflective, where some of the other pantheons in their mirror matches have very distinct cards of, okay, we're both going to be running these win conditions, all right, but here there can be some variance, some similarities between these two decks though, and it looks like Belgian Grump decided, no matter what, we're going to have to do this mirror match, whether it's now or I win now and we push it to a game 5. I'm going to go ahead and opt to do it now and see what happens.
Try to get it over with. And the one thing I'm mainly concerned with, at least for Arlo, when it comes down to it, he's got 2 wins. The thing he really wants is another one. But Odin doesn't have a lot of reply to some of the aggression. He has some ways to deal with it, some ways to get hurt by all of it, depending on how the hand goes. And with the way his is, I mean, he has 2 hells. That's going to be nice later on. And he does have his runestone already available. But it's looking like we're going to be seeing some more early aggression, I think, from Belgium.
See, I'm worried for Arlo because he doesn't have the skin.
That's what it is.
That means that he's in a bit of a more difficult situation here. Not really, but I mean, one thing about Odin that makes it kind of tricky is they don't have AoE really, so you're going into this knowing that your opponent can develop a filled board and you don't have a way to clear it, but it's also the opposite. The opposite case is true.
And with the way things are going, at least with Arlo, he does have the soul, which is going to help a little bit, I think, for the early on fight. And being able to eventually get out the Hell, be able to get out the Ymir, be able to buff up everyone else. And then eventually, I guess maybe combo with that Tomb Warden that he has now drawn. Might be able to do some, but it looks like we're going to be seeing the Gift of Moonin immediately take out that soul.
Yep, go ahead and do that so you don't have to worry about your own positioning. A lot of your units can just get knocked down really easily by soul if you're developing your Cursed Warriors and such. So it makes sense. Another soul drawn, though, but this time around, it's going to be Ymir.
And I like the Ymir over the soul just because I feel like the Ymir gives a little bit more control overall over the board. Yeah. And that's what Arlo's going to need early on. But with the unit health set to 1, that's going to be a clean wipe. And Ymir, you came, you said hi, and you left.
Still surviving the hit, too. Going into it, the 3-3, surviving as 3-1. Bring out your own Curse Warrior as well to move on forward. And suddenly, 5 HP in the favor of Belgian Grump as he really tries to rush this down.
Ymir, another one drawn, another soul drawn actually as well. So both of the ones that have died have immediately come right back up. It's going to be the runestone that comes out for us. First, 1 mana going to be gained. Soul is the primary target here, and that should be a nice clean wipe over there. And he puts Soul in a good position to continue that aggression.
A nice response there, so you can get the clear while still aggressing forward because you don't have to be in reach of both of the units, only one of them. Of course, Thor coming on through too, so that she doesn't do any more damage, and then surviving as a 2-2 as well.
I'm going to be falling down, waiting. With the runestone still out, a lot of charge is available. With the Suitor actually going to be able to do a lot as well, depending on how he wants to combo this. Looks like the main primary target right now seems to be the Thor. Just 1/1s throwing out. Going to be able to face with the Tomb Warden, kind of go out, spawn the 6/5 immediately, and put him right next to the Tombstone, or not the Tombstone, the Summoning Stone. And the Tomb Warden looking to make that one a Tombstone as he goes forward.
And that's the nice thing, since that is technically a spawn, he was able to move it even farther because it regains its charge, basically. And then you can move it even farther towards the back line, where there's a response from this Blade Master, but can't completely kill him. Just get a little bit of damage and hope that the trade back comes to him.
This is a really unfortunate position because I feel like Arlo, at some points you start to feel forced, like I feel like I need to kill this Blade Master because otherwise something's going to come back. But it's like at the same time, you have to think the same way things were going earlier. It's just like, I don't have to attack you, you have to attack me. If you want to get rid of this guy, you have to do it. But with the charge warriors, it has potential to kind of keep that one. It's only a 4/1. It's not going to be the biggest threat in the world, but just keep it alive a little bit longer, have it be a little bit of a nuisance and something you have to deal with.
Yeah. If he doesn't choose to hit the stone for 6 damage, he basically he takes out the Blade Master. If he does choose to hit it, then he ends up dying for nearly free the next time around. But see how valuable it is when everything is charged? Then you don't even have to worry about it. You just put the L down, she can reach, and boom! Another 6 damage. Also get rid of the Cursed Warrior that was there too. And you're probably going to get traded by a Cursed Warrior to take that 6 damage unit right off the board. But still, you got 12 damage onto the stone from one card.
And now with the way things are going to be going, there's a lot of potential. Of course, we're going to see the Cursed Warrior, just like you said, come out, clear it out, 6 damage there. Harpy's going to be put in, but with the retaliation and honestly the way that Arlo has like the cards that he has in his hand, along with the runestone that is still standing after all this time, that's going to be the big one. Everything having charge, Hell's going to get buffed. Hell's going to be able to buff Hell. Hell's going to be able to buff Ymir. Hell's going to be able to buff Scotty or Calder. At this point, everything that you would want, that runestone is able to provide you. With 2 Hells on the board, that's going to be a nice big chunk and a nice big Scotty, 6 and 7, ready to go face.
Just take off that Fury so you don't have to worry about her anymore. Just having that invite rejected to the party, but now with nothing on the board in the favor of Belgian Grunt, he's having to come from the back end, and silencing the Scotty to take off those stats means that Hells can still actually have an impact. One of them no longer, but you only got 2 Chaos Bonds, man. One's still there.
And when it comes down to it, one of the things, this is kind of similar to the Chieftain. It's still a 3-4 ranged unit. It's still going to be Hell. It's not going to be, oh, hey, I can buff this Scotty into oblivion to the point where she's going to one-hit you. But it's still, I can eliminate your units just by taking a step back, throwing out that ranged attack, and you don't have an answer for it just yet. And that seems to be kind of the goal, is kind of move her away out of the melee range. Go ahead, get the kills. Use Scotty, I think, a little bit better. Could potentially go for the Cursed Warrior, but at this point, 16 health left on the Summoning Stone. A little poke goes a long way.
Yeah, and you can get a board clear and still get some damage onto the stone, all because that rune stone is still there right in the back. So now moving on forward, assuming he's going to go ahead and hit with one of these babies, you might as well go ahead and clear. Yep. And boom. There you go. Just finish your right off, so that allows you even more damage onto the stone immediately.
The Ymir coming out, going to get buffed all the way up to 5, going to be able to hit that Summoning Stone for a healthy chunk. And now sitting at 11 health. Does have a Fire Giant, does have a Blade Master, has some stuff, and with the Runestone actually being drawn, can't play that with the Fire Giant, but does have some potential now to kind of combo that with some of the other cards.
Yeah, this is a bad board state for Belgian, though. There's just been such a nice push from Arlo, and it's all because of that Runestone. All because of it sitting there in the back.
And just unable to touch it. I actually think, I can't remember if it was last game or this game, but Belgian using anything that he has that could clear that out way too early on. I think last game was when we saw them both come out with, like, in the early turns, but a lot of damage that could potentially be thrown to try and get rid of that, get that charge away, just not able to go out there. And even the Cursed Warrior is just not able to get that far. And with the damage amount, it looks like, I mean, this should just be a clean win right now for Arlo.
Yep, just go ahead and move your Hells forward, and then they get the buff from Surtur, so that you can hit with that, hit directly with Surtur as well, and Scotty, and boom, it's going to be a win for Arlo, meaning he does win the series once again, 3-1. Really quite a trend for him there.
And each loss has always been the Opwash. Every single time he comes in, it's the first game. I think he, like, comes into it mentally like, I'm going to lose this one. That's okay. I'm going to lose this one to get the jitters out.
Yeah, just shake it out a little bit and then get the victory there. But congratulations to Arlo for his performance there.
Some money.
Yeah, moolah, baby. But they both do get a cut of the prize pool. Arlo walks away with the larger cut, as well as bragging rights from being the victor of weekly number 2. Now, Belgium, we saw a Bologna, some traditional aspects in some of his decks, but a very compelling lineup that he had.
And being able to make it that far with what I was calling one of the weakest gods, and honestly kind of one of the weaker pantheons that we've seen, at least in tournament play, and being able to show that, hey, you know, if you get it right, if you get things rolling the right way, it can still do a lot of damage. So being able to kind of throw that one out there and show people that there still is some room for some of the others. So maybe next week we get to see some Zeus.
Yeah, maybe. Anyone feel like bringing Zeus to the
Arlo?
table?
You played pretty well.
Tomorrow,
First place,
maybe.
you know.
Yeah. But besides, so would you say Zeus is if you had to pick something that you're bummed that you didn't see today, would it be Zeus?
I think so. I think I'm bummed that I only saw Bologna win once, and bummed that I saw her lose twice. Because part of me, like, as much as I like to harp on her, I really like Bologna and I like the gods that come with the Roman pantheon. But kind of just getting knocked out of there, not a lot to do with her and the current state, the way the games are being played. She doesn't have as much control as some of the others. So if you get it early on, you can keep control of it. But as we saw, with Kenneth earlier on, if it doesn't go your way in the early game, you can't take much back.
Well, the nice thing about what we've got here with Hand of the Gods is all of that you may have wanted to see today. We do have more opportunities to see it because this was weekly number 2. But tomorrow we do have the ESL tournament, and then Tuesday there's a tournament as well. So we will be back here live tomorrow, and the rounds kick off at noon Eastern, so look out for the stream to be sometime after that. Make sure you're following on social media to keep up with everything, not just on stream, but if you want to join the tournaments, they're open to everybody. Why not take a chance to go ahead and get some cash or sharpen your skills in Hand of the Gods? But besides that, the only announcements are we also have the Caster episode 4 premiering on Wednesday. I hope you caught episode 3 where it was Hand of the Gods themed, and I was on the off-air show for that. Adonis was a guest on that episode, but we're going to be pushing forward with even more, so stay tuned. I'm happy to still be in it representing y'all.
Still alive.
Yeah, still alive as a contestant there, but that's on twitch.tv/Hi-Rez TV. But anything you'd like to say before we close things out here?
Well, the other thing, not only social media, but you've actually followed the channel on Twitch. There are notifications, so if you want to know when the tournament goes live, or we do occasionally have streams as well to kind of keep going. You can watch. I believe, have been on there a few times. You've seen Adonis come in,
some of the people
play,
in this tournament.
Just some of the people who have been playing today. Some other streamers who just come in, they play it. You can learn the game a little bit more and see a little bit more of the cards and get a feel for what the game is.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, friends. But thanks for hanging with us today, then. I hope you've enjoyed what we've brought to you, and we will catch you tomorrow, then, in the afternoon time. Until then, good morning, afternoon, evening, and good night.